everybody, it is Catherine Movies today, and today I'm going to be doing a mental health topic vlog. I'm going to be talking about bipolar disorder. I'm going to be talking about the manic episodes, the depressive episodes, also bipolar 1 and bipolar 2, and bipolar NOS. I would just like to think also before I start the video is that I would like to say thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. Please, if you haven't already, please subscribe right here. Also, please give this video a thumbs up, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching and also supporting this channel. So what's bipolar? Bipolar disorder is a manic depressive illness that has unusual shifting changes of mood and an energy. Some of the symptoms that include a bipolar disorder are having tough times of day-to-day tasks, even with school or even with money, or even having poor relationships with family, friends, or as well as your loved one. The reason why I'm talking about bipolar disorder is because I suffer through bipolar disorder. But for me to overcome and realize what my symptoms are, I act upon it and try to get the help that I need before that my symptoms can get worse. And so what I did before my symptoms got any worse is I will go into group therapy. It can be scary, but it's also really helpful. Some of the stuff I will admit that I have learned in the past few days that I have gone back is that I have more triggers than I thought. When certain topics are brought up, I will be sometimes easily triggered by someone saying something. So I have ways of coping those triggers is by coloring, writing, listening to the music, and trying to be good to myself and not letting it get to me. So I'm going to be talking about a manic episode as well as the depressive episode. So when you are getting diagnosed, for me it was bipolar NOS because they don't want to clarify bipolar 1 or bipolar 2. They say mood disorder NOS, and that is still for me bipolar. I have looked up both 1 and 2, so when they said I was 1 and 2, they're really not sure on which one I am, but for me, I just try to take it as it is. And so I'm going to be talking about the manic episode of having bipolar symptoms. In a manic episode, for the first one I'm going to be talking about is having an anger or temper issue, like really short fuse. I've noticed when I have my short fuses is I am basically yelling at anything, basically yelling at the sky, and I feel like those are abnormal ways of being more short-tempered than usual. So those are one of the symptoms that you just recently getting diagnosed. A second symptom of the mood changes is being overly silly for a while, and then finally something triggers that silliness into sadness very, very quickly. I've noticed with myself, I can be sometimes overly silly and I can be overly joyful about something, and something can click any minute. Like I see something I don't like, or I see somebody that I hate, or they hate me, it makes me anxious. That silliness can just stop right away for me. I'm going to move on towards behavioral changes. Some of these are kind of go in between manic and depressive. The first one I'm going to be talking about is sleeping a little but not tired, or sleeping so much that would be a depressive episode, and you're tired and you're not. Your sleep schedule is very off. Those are one of the behavioral changes that can happen during a manic episode. The second one I'm going to be talking about is talking a lot, overly talking, very hyperactive, can't slow their brain waves down, jumping into different things that they want to talk about but they can't finish it. And I've noticed that with me is when people who have this disorder is coffee. Coffee is one of those triggers. I've noticed that I am rapidly talking when I am drinking coffee. So I tend to try to avoid regular coffee. Decaf coffee is about the same thing. It kind of slows down my brain waves and you're still getting that jolt. So talking rapidly and not slowing down is another symptom of behavioral changes. So the third symptom of bipolar disorder in manic, we're still in the manic stage, is having trouble concentrating, moving around a lot, can't sit still. Your mind just keeps going and going a mile a minute, and it's hard for that to slow down without any medication. And it's just a rapid process of thinking, overly thinking, being, even when you're happy you're still thinking, or even when you're sad and you're worrying about something, you're still overly thinking. So we have to try to find a happy medium in both areas, that you can be worrying and you can be happy thinking kind of thing. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but a lot of the time when I'm in a manic stage, I think constantly and I can't slow that process down. So that's when the meds get involved. I'm going to be talking about that in a different separate video for the bipolar disorder, but meds are an important role. Medications play an important role with mental illness and all sorts of different mental illness, even bipolar or just anything. They're not the cure of things, but they do help you towards your recovery with your mental illness. So another symptom is thinking about sex. I know this might happen with a lot of teenagers. They're very out there with sex and, being with someone, and that can be a very well trigger. I wasn't like that as a teenager. Even as an adult, I'm not really into sex or anything. So this one's kind of tough for me to talk about because I can't really relate to that. But I know people who have suffered through bipolar are thinking sexual thoughts, being more sexually active, and that is another important symptom to realize if you have a loved one, friend, family that is suffering through bipolar. So the last thought of being in a manic state is doing risky behavior, or just having these risky thoughts and even acting upon it. A lot of the times when I was in a risky state, I was drinking a lot. I've noticed when I've researched about bipolar that bipolars do like to drink and self-medicate because it's the only way that we possibly think that can slow our brainwaves down even without the medications. So that is a risky behavior to watch even with a teen, because I know a lot of teens nowadays do experiment with alcohol, and that can trigger a lot of the symptoms ahead of time, like using a lot, using drugs, and that is a way of coping for people who are suffering through bipolar. So that is a behavior that should be really watched or trying to find the help that they need. Okay, so those were a lot of the symptoms for the behavioral changes and mood changes in a manic episode. Now we are going to be moving on to the depressive episode of bipolar. Now, a lot of the times this can go combined. 1 minute, or for a while you're on a manic stage. It can last weeks, it can last months. And then for some reason, it crashes, something happens. And therefore, with bipolar disorder, you get really, really depressed. And it's hard to get out of. And this is another red flag that people need to realize with people who are suffering through bipolar or just any mental illness is a depressive state. Because this is a serious that has happened in their life and they can't seem to get out of it for months without any help or treatment. So the first one I'm going to be talking about for the symptom of the depressive episode of bipolar is being depressed. I know people suffer through depression for a period of time, but when it comes to bipolar and mood changes, it has a huge effect on myself when I get depressed. It lasts for a very long time, sometimes months, sometimes weeks, and sometimes maybe a few days. I don't know. It depends on the person who is suffering. For me, it lasted months. It can last years, and that can be really scary because we need to help the loved ones that are suffering and being able to realize and know what is going on through their changes in mood. So the other one I'm going to be talking about, besides being depressed for a very long time, when we get depressed, we can lose a lot of things that we enjoy. I lost a lot of things that I enjoy, like video editing. Another symptom to realize, and also this is combined being worthless, helpless, not feeling like you are anything. And these are 3 major warning signs to help a loved one before it gets any worse with being diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So now I'm going to be talking about the behavioral changes of manic depressive episode. First symptom I'm going to be talking about is complaining about a lot of neck pain, back pain, even stomach pain. That can cause a lot of the depression issues that we have stomach pain. And that is what I've learned in therapy is when I feel depressed, and that's when my stomach hurts and I can't eat anything. Loss of appetite. So I'm going to move right along to the second symptom of the depressive mania is what I said before, is not eating, loss of appetite. Some people overeat when they're depressed, or sometimes they don't eat at all, or they're underweight or they're overweight. That we can help. We need to help. We need to let the people know that there is hope when it comes to finding help for your mental illness. So I'm going to be talking about now is sleeping so much or sleeping so little, and that is another warning warning sign. And just, not sleeping at all is another one. People can do irrational things when they are not sleeping very much, or when they're oversleeping. That is another trigger, that people just don't want to get out of bed and, shut this change down, and it's really hard for them to even get motivated. And we need to watch people, go through that, because we want to make sure that they're safe. And so the last thing I'm going to be talking about is, when it comes to bipolar, people suffer through so much of depression and mania, and the cycle is, it never ends, and your mind's always going. It's thoughts of suicide. There are certain warning signs when it comes to that and the depressive. So those are the things that we really need to watch out before it gets to that low point. Okay, so this is going to be the end of the video. I'm just going to tell you a little bit between bipolar 1 and 2 and NOS. I'm going to try to make this as simple as I can, because bipolar can be a very complex mental illness to even look at, to even research about it. There's so much information online. And so with bipolar 1 is the manic stage before we get to bipolar 2, can be the depression stage. And so with bipolar NOS, it is combined with bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. So I'm hoping this video has helped anybody who is suffering through bipolar or has a family suffering through bipolar disorder. I try to clarify it a little bit. I have been learning more about this in group therapy, and I knew a lot, but it's always good to refresh my memory about my mental illness, because sometimes we forget that we have an illness, and that is another warning sign that I've heard, that we need to get the help before it gets any worse. And so I'm going to be signing out now, and I hope that I helped somebody. Please leave a comment down below also, and if you just need to talk to me, I'll be always available to talk. Hopefully I can help you. I'm not a doctor. I just try to remember what I've gone through and my experiences through my mental illness. So I'm just going to end the video now, and I hope everybody's staying strong, and I still love you all. And so I'm going to be making videos weekly. Hopefully maybe I'll make them twice a week. So I'm going to end the video now, and I'll be seeing you soon. Bye.